Welcome to the Central Pennsylvania Music Podcast. Tonight, Jen Shade and Dezzie Renae. This episode is sponsored by URL Insurance Group. And now your hosts, Daniel Kime and Alan McCutcheon.
Welcome to another episode of the Central Pennsylvania Music Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel. Coming up, we have two exciting guests, Jen Shade of 1057 The X, also on the advisory committee for the Hall of Fame. Followed by her, we have Dezzie Renae. She just dropped her debut album, Movin On. Plus, we're going to get a live performance of her song, Sunshine.
And we are sitting down with the famous Jen Shade. I have grown up listening to you, and I mean that with all due respect.
Careful.
High school. We're going to say high school.
Say elementary or kindergarten, and I'm going home.
I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say high school, but I remember distinctly riding the bus and listening to the morning show because that's what the bus driver wanted to listen to. And I was like, and I always remembered, I was like, I just liked your voice. It cut through all the other voices. Like when people were getting too rowdy, as soon as Jen got in, it was kind of like the mom vibe. It's like, oh wait, Jen might be getting mad.
Wow.
So I liked it though. I liked it because it kept everything on track. You know what I mean?
That's my job. I mean, that's kind of where that was on purpose. That was not an accident.
That was not an accident.
No, not an accident.
So I mean, how did this start? Start at the beginning. How did Jen Shade, the Jen Shade that we know and love, come to be?
Which lifetime? I think it took several to get here. And when I landed, it was a pretty rough start. So to be honest with you, I mean, I was 9 years old and my father died 2 days before Christmas, dropped dead of a heart attack.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was a lot of years ago, but it was a lot to, I'd say unpack as I guess the latest term for it, but it's not like that. It's a process that probably never ends. And my mother didn't handle it very well. And I was pretty much on my own from about then, maybe even, to 12 to 14. I had my first job. So I was working and I was pretty much on my own from the very beginning. So everything I am to this point has been some kind of revolving, what are those people movers at the airport?
Yeah.
I just kind of get off one and then on the escalator and then on the people mover and just keep going around until I pick up enough to keep going.
It's
a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. I mean, that's intense. It's heavy, but I mean, I'm glad you were able to take whatever that was, and you were able to turn it into something positive, though.
Well, don't be mistaken. There, and to this day, there are plenty of issues. And it's a lot of work. It's people will look at jobs like we have and say, "Oh wow, it must be nice." I love that term a lot because you don't know what goes into it. There's so much unseen. There's so much unspoken. There's so much that nobody sees. They don't see me getting up in the middle of the night at 3:30 in the morning to do work or what I'm doing before I go to bed. The late nights, 7 days a week of a lot of work. Pre-pandemic, I mean, we were going and didn't even know it.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was definitely one of those kids when I was on the high school bus. I was like, man, being a radio DJ must be like the gig to have. Like, you just hop on the radio, you just talk about stuff. And then I was like, it must be like the best job that you could like have. And I mean, I don't think a lot of us realize like truly how much work goes into just what we hear seeming like this, like, oh, la-di-da, like vibe. And that's what we're hearing. We're not seeing any of that work that goes into it.
It's any performer's job to make it look simple and to erase any kind of like work element to it because people are coming to you to forget what they're doing and their lives. So it's our job to make it look easy. You watch television and there's just like a 2D screen and you just think all those programs that whacked up there and hey, you have no idea the production level that is involved. And on our scale, we do a lot of the work ourselves. That's the other thing that people don't understand. I'll very often refer to my staff and my team when I have to have a meeting with them. We'll all sit down together and it's me.
Me, myself, and I.
So that's it. It's all there is. So
yeah, I feel that.
It's a lot of responsibility. If I think about it too much, I get myself completely psyched out. Like when I take off on vacation and I come back the night before, I am totally riddled with anxiety. But a lot of years of practice and a lot of years of working on it and makes you better at it. And you want to do a good job. And in my case, for me, I went to art school. Mm-hmm. So
Tyler University or Tyler School of
Arts?
Arts?
Tyler School of Art at Temple.
Yep.
that was kind of just not an accident, but it was just, things fall into place, whatever you believe in, whether it's God or a head of cabbage. I mean, there's something that propels you, and there are signposts along the way, and there are people along the way that help. And I ran into a good group of people along my path. I mean, Elaine Wilson, who's my art teacher in school, and Alan Koss, who was a professor of mine at Tyler, all passed. Well, Elaine is not, please. But Alan Koss, he's passed on. Ed Coffey, when I got into the radio business, which is a weird thing in itself. All those, those things were put in front of me, and it was my job to kind of figure out, well, do I go along with this or not? And sometimes, the old take your hands off the wheel deal was the real thing. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing. I just tried to do the best I could. So I went to art school, and then I came home on summer break, and I started doing artwork for, like, when bands would go, be out, and we used to have, this will date me, table cards. So when you went to a bar, there'd be a card on the table, and it would, you go to see a band, and it would say who the band was, and it would say it was Martini Brothers or, the Sharks or something, and it would say, as again, dating me, where they were going to be playing. So you take it home and you put it in your pocket. Well, I started doing that artwork for the bands.
Well, that's awesome. Okay.
And that's when Ed Coffey came up to me at one point and said, "Did you ever think about doing radio?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Well, I think you should." I said, "I don't even know what to do." So he said, "Go to the studio." I did a demo tape on a Monday. Kevin the Kid Beam, who's working nights at the time, helped me put it together. I had no idea what I was doing. He said, "Read this, do that, say this, try that." And I did it. And he called me. We submitted it Tuesday morning, and that was for WTPA, way out in the cornfield at the time, off of Trindle and Mechanicsburg. And he said, "You better get in here." This was Tuesday, because you're on Friday, doing your first 2 hours. So I must have faked it pretty well, because I had no clue what I was doing or how it was to be done.
And you were not anticipating that phone call?
No, not at all. And that was it. And then within 9 months, Ed had come to me and said, and Jeff Kaufman at the time, who's passed. And so it was Coffee and the Jammer. And they said, "We want you to come onto the morning show." Instinctively, and for no reason whatsoever other than it came down, I said, there are two things I don't do. I don't play a dumb blonde, and I don't get coffee. I was 21 years old, freshly 21. I had no idea what the hell was going on and why I even said that, but what it was a intuitive setup to
Absolutely.
what I was about to go into. Because I didn't want to be that bubbly dingbat.
Yep.
There were too many of those already. The laugh tracks. Women in my business were known for one thing, being a sub to a guy, okay? And it's okay, has a place, no judgment, but that's not what I wanted to do. Plus, that's short term.
Absolutely.
When you're young and you're cute and you're like, okay, you get to be ha ha ha, that has a shelf life. It's not going to last. And I didn't really know why I was saying it, but that's what I didn't want any of that. I wanted to do it.
You were like doing, like, pardon my language, but you were doing boss bitch vibes like way before that was even like a hashtag trend.
Before it had a name.
Before it even had a name. You walked in and you're like, "This is who I am. This is what I'm about. If you don't like it, I can walk." Like, done and done.
And it was probably my experience because of my dad passing and the rough time I had that gave me that feeling that I really had to have some kind of power over myself.
Sure.
And so it might have been fear driven, in all fairness, but for the most part, that was really, where I set the line for what I was about to do. I didn't know it, but that's the direction I was going, and it worked. And that's what Ed said. He came back to me and he said, "That's exactly what we want. Look, we've got the funny guy and the hippie guy. We need somebody with straight edge." I refer to my job very often as I throw tennis balls best. I can work on my own, but I work better as a team, setting the other guys up.
Okay.
So that's how I fell into doing the news. And I was told when I started that people who like rock music can't finance a glass of water and don't give a crap about the news. And I said, "You know what? I think you're wrong. And I'm going to do this the way I'm going to do it." The good thing is, in our rock community and in this section of the music community, they didn't pay a whole lot of attention to what we were doing.
Yeah.
Because I think they counted us out. And that was good, because I got left alone to develop things the way I wanted to do it. So
Kind of like a blessing in disguise.
It was. And it is still. I think our higher ups still don't know what we do. They're like, "We don't know what you're doing, but it works." And I'm good. And, my partners may get upset about that because they're not getting extreme accolades. But in my world, I'm like, good, that means you leave me alone and I can do what inherently I think I need to do based on what's going on around me.
Absolutely. I mean, and that led to 30 plus years in the music scene as well as commercial radio.
Ooh.
How would you say, this is like my favorite question. I love to ask radio personalities. You have been in this business this long. How would you describe the change that you've seen in the industry compared to when you started to where you're at now? And I got to be honest, because I love how opinionated you are. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the current, or do you prefer maybe the way it used to be in the past?
Well, everything builds on itself. So way back, when you first got a hold of some digital gear and what I learned something in college from my one professor, Paul Sheriff. He was tough. He was mean. He ripped you apart. It was probably good practice for working in the public.
Absolutely.
And it was graphic design. And I got angry and I said, why do we keep having to do this by hand, redoing this and drawing this and whatever? You keep making us go over the same thing. I could go over to this computer and I could print this out and do it this way. He said, what I'm trying to teach you is this. There will always be problems to solve. There will always be tools. Okay, so I'm trying to teach you to problem solve. The tools are going to change. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got, because he's like, the tools will always be different. There'll be some new technology, something. I'm trying to teach you how to approach something from a problem solving standpoint. And that is what I go by. I can't say anything's better or worse. It's all built up on what has happened before. Equipment, music equipment, recording equipment, all those things will change. What I do for the public is going to be the same regardless.
Absolutely.
It hasn't changed that much for me. I still attack it from a problem-solving standpoint of what do I need to tackle this morning, today, what do people need to hear? We do, I'm very big on what we call listener benefit. I don't talk to hear myself talk. I talk to try to make sure that people are helped and understood. So my intention is different going in than maybe all about me and me being famous and me being whatever. It's about trying to help people.
Absolutely.
So that's never changed. And the whole process maybe has changed in some good ways. New tech makes it a lot easier. I can
imagine.
Record from the house. The microphone that I have was $2,000 a bunch of years ago. Now it's like $60 and it works better than the one I had.
Isn't it crazy?
It is ridiculous. And my computer, I can, I've got dual screens and I can pull up my copy and read stuff from the house and send it in, and the process, it's so much easier than cutting
Makes
tape
sense.
and doing all these old things. But so I don't really think it's changed. The subject's changed, but the intent is the same.
So
Serve
if I'm understanding correctly, essentially the mathematical equation and the variables that used to be that mathematical equation back then, that's completely different now. But he taught you how to understand these variables to solve the equation as time went on.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
were able to problem solve no matter what the equation and the variables were. You could find a resolution.
Well, you look at your problem and then you look at the tools on hand. I could never have imagined where we'd be now with some of this stuff.
Like a supercomputer in your pocket. Like,
Right.
It's crazy the way we can learn now. Back, I actually still remember when you wanted to learn something, you had to put clothes on. Like you had to go
You couldn't
somewhere.
go in half pants.
Yeah, and you had to flip through like terrible smelling books at a place called a library.
Yeah.
But like now you can just wake up, you're like, I feel like learning quantum physics, and you're just in your underwear in your bed and you just watch a YouTube video on quantum physics and you're like, I'm learning. Like,
And it's so cool, especially when you have an active brain. You can constantly feed it. You can go over the board.
It's true.
But you know what? It goes back to one thing, and musicians will understand this, and it's the truth. A good song can be written on an acoustic guitar and played with as much impact as going into a studio with millions of layers and all kinds of technology. If it's good enough, it can be stripped down to the basics or start at the basics and can be added to. And that's true quality.
sure,
You
yeah,
can decorate
absolutely.
anything.
I think emotion definitely, if you have the right artist, emotion can make itself known through the song, and I think that's a big factor. That's I think to me, like, that's the it factor, the quote unquote it factor that a lot of people like. What is that? It's like, are you properly expressing the emotion of the song? Like, and I think that's a big deal when you can properly do that.
It is at its best. I mean, you can take any of the songs that we play on the radio from like currently, like Falling in Reverse or Bad Omens, or go back to Led Zeppelin or the Stones, and every single one of those can be reduced to an acoustic guitar and a singer if there is enough there for it. In the case of like those things I'm talking about, you can do them anyway.
It's true.
And that's true quality. So it's the same for us. When your tools are going to change. You can, but a real artist, this is an old thing. I don't even remember where I picked it up, but you're an artist before you ever paint a picture. You're a musician before you ever play a note. It's in your soul. It's in your heart. It's in your gut. It's who you are. And
I love that.
It doesn't change no matter what's going on.
I've never heard that before, but I absolutely love that.
Gosh, I
That's
wish I
like,
could credit
we're going to
it.
put that on a coffee mug for you.
can't.
And just give that to you.
It's not new, and it was something I heard many, many years ago on, believe it or not, some old cassette tape of, positive stuff, whatever. And it was encouraging artists and to understand that that's who you really are, and nobody can take that away from you.
100%.
Whether you play or not, paint or not, work or not, you are, at your core who you are. Accept that and be happy with it, and then everything else that goes on around you doesn't affect you as much, and you're okay. Because I know a lot of times especially now, it's so much different, because you used to be like, okay, you were in a band and you were in high school, or you were in the play, or you did some kind of performance, and you were unique because you were one person out of like 500.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like in my case, I'm an artist and I go to art school. Now I'm one of 500 to do the exact same thing, and a lot of them do it better. And now people are judging themselves up against what they see by millions. And it can be really, it can tear you up.
It absolutely can. It can chew you up and spit you out.
If you're going to judge yourself by the finest of the professionals out there, you can be discouraged. Mm-hmm. It's like a football player. You used to be the quarterback. You were the best. Now you go to college. Now you're like not even playing. You got to switch out of D1 and I got to go to D3 so I can get on the field, because you're not number one. You're not special. You're not weird. You're not different. But you can't let that get to you. You've got to still push on and perfect your craft. There's still new creative work to be done. It's just a little bit harder, and you're going to get discouraged if all you do is put yourself up against all the people you see on the internet.
And also, you're not going to go any further if all you do is just complain and blame
quit.
everyone. You quit. Yeah,
If you quit.
If you quit, you quit. It stops. The progress stops. So.
And true, like, there are some geniuses that just land on the earth, and they just, the savants who play piano out of nowhere and stuff like that. You can see all that too. But a lot of people really work at their craft, and they worked a long time at it before you ever even see them.
It's true.
So it goes without saying that, all of the things that have happened in the past make you who you are at the moment. And then when you go forward, you're trying to convey that to people. You're trying to either, emote how you feel, or you're trying to talk to people about what they want to hear. Again, if your intention is to give, then it works. If you're just trying to take, it comes back to get you. At least that's my experience.
Absolutely. Karma
It
comes
does.
right back around.
And karma's two-sided.
It is.
Karma's not a punishment. It's also comes in positive form. You put out good, you get good. You put out negative, you get negative. Good, you get, good comes back.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times people say karma, and it's like, it's not punishment. Oh, I hope they get theirs. I'm like, that's going to wish poorly on someone else, and that's not good for you either.
That's
Quit it.
a valid point. You're not wrong.
But that's a whole other subject. But it's your intent. And
sense.
just keep at it. And you just keep doing what you were born to do. Somewhere along the line, you'll figure it out.
That's true. I mean, and you touched on like these random talented people, these savants, these geniuses and stuff like that just like somehow grace the earth. But I mean, with that, I'm going to kind of like lateral shift here, maybe not individuals, but I think we have a pretty unique and extremely talented scene here in Central PA, more so than other places, I would say. And I mean, I might be a little biased because I'm from Central PA, and I know you are as well. Yeah. But I know you are also on the advisory committee for the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame. So I got to ask, what do you think is so special about the Central PA scene? Because, I mean, you can pretty much sit here and name artists for like 5 minutes of that have made it from this area. What do you think is special? I like to say 3 Mile Island, but...
we all got a good dose, or our parents did.
Yeah, right.
Somewhere along it. There's one thing about this area, and I can tell you this, like Stained, I'm trying to go through all the other, Kid Rock, Godsmack. Do you know that we were one of the first market in the country to play those artists?
I did not know that.
Okay, because major markets had a big market to serve, big bills to pay, and this is really oversimplifying it. We had some gray area we could play with.
Okay.
We could be a test market without so much on the line. So with some foresight and the ability to get in there, we could bring some of these artists up and play them before other markets, they couldn't take the chances we could take.
Understood.
So we could do that.
So if you guys bomb, then it's not going to be headline news. But if it works, cool.
Right.
We've got this figured out, and we know the formula.
And let's be honest. I mean, the business is business. There is money behind this.
Everything. Yep.
There is theory. I mean, it's just like music. You can have people who study music theory all day and all night. for all their lives. And they still can't hit a rhythm, can't pick that note, right?
True.
Can't sing that song. And then you can have people that just do it. Okay, so there are those parts of it. But, here we've got room to move. We've got room to practice. We've got time for talent. You're not as distracted. One of those key little things. We go, oh, there's nothing to do here. Well, guess what? That nothing to do can give you the space to practice. You can find space to practice in New York. How much you paying? Okay.
That's true.
If you want to do work, there are clubs open and there are places to go, but you've got some place to work here. It's a nice place to work. And you've got a shot at a lot of different metros. You can go play. Look, you still have to play live. I mean, recording is recording and playing live is playing live. Your best work can be live, right?
That's true.
If you're good enough. But, here you can concentrate, you can focus, and you have a good opportunity to get some good work done without the major distractions of big city living that tends to bring in, at this point now, all kinds of other issues. So it's not as hard to work on your craft and focus on it. That may have something to do with it. Maybe it's in the water. Maybe, we just appreciate what we have. When you go out, like let's use New York as an example, and things are much different now, but, prior to the pandemic, those clubs would change over on a nightly basis. It's name one night, another name another night. You have a stack of 3 bands. Everybody's really good, and it's really hard to get recognized. And for a while, it was L.A. Now it's Nashville. You know how you walk down the street in Nashville, you look inside each one of the places, there's a phenomenal singer in every single venue, a phenomenal artist, not just how are you going to get recognized?
When there's so much talent all around you, you just become white noise in the background.
You can. And so here, you do have a chance to stand out, and there is nothing like live. Nothing prepares you for working as a musician like live does.
That's absolutely true.
Look, we can all go in the studio and make ourselves sound great. I mean, we can decorate our voices and do whatever we want for hours at a time. It's when you can go out live that you're the latest catchphrase, which I wish wasn't a catchphrase because it's so true, authentic. When you're really good and authentic, you can do that. And it comes across, but nothing replaces being live. You don't get that feedback, that immediate, like when you see somebody singing along to your song, or when you go to, like in my case, you go up to an intro and people are screaming. I mean, last one that was super huge for me, I mean, Shinedown's been big and all these other bands, but like Falling in Reverse gave me a lot of hope, because you wonder, like, as some of these other bands are aging up, you wonder, what's next? When I went to that show in Hershey, I was so excited. Yellow Wolf out in at Sturgis at the Iron Horse. So excited to see that crowd and that reaction. And it's a high you can't get from any drug, from anything else that you do. That exchange between a performer and the audience is irreplaceable for everyone.
Absolutely. As a former vocalist and playing at Chameleon Club, I mean, there is nothing that has ever come close to that feeling of seeing the Chameleon Club packed, and you're a co-headliner. And then after that, I got to do guest vocals with one of my most influential bands, like one of my favorite people.
Who was that?
That was the Browning. Their very first opening song of the night. I came out and did the very first vocals for their opening song, and nothing has ever touched that kind of high. And it's true. When you get that, and when you get that itch, that bug bite, and you've experienced it, I mean, it's hard. It's hard.
And all it takes is one. You could fail 10 times and be absolutely awesome. 6 people in the crowd. Heck, yay, good, you're awesome. Thanks, Mom. And then
100%.
Your girlfriend's there, your mom, and 2 other strange people who just wanted a beer, and you're trying to entertain them.
I used to be something, It's that guy sitting on the stool.
You're like, okay. But you know what? When you get that first taste of that response that you're doing the right thing, there is nothing better. But there's also nothing that replaces it. So that live thing, I mean, we had it here. I'd like to see it come back more. We have venues. True. We've got some. I'd like to see more on that, I don't say beginner level, but that fundamental level.
Sure. You're not a pro, but you're not a beginner. You're like, I hate the word amateur because it's almost like it sounds bad, but that's like the tier you're at. Like You're not just starting out, but you haven't hit pro yet, but you got something solid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you cut your teeth. You learn from like I was saying about me and everything else. You learn from every single thing you do, and sometimes success is learning how to fail, learning how to completely screw it up so you don't do it again.
That's a super important lesson. It really is. I don't think a lot of people do learn that, or even if they do, they don't even recognize that it's the lesson that they're supposed to be learning right now.
It sucks. You cry. You
A lot.
can bomb horribly.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
go home and lick your wounds and repeatedly. I mean, to this day, what can I do to be better? Why can't I be better at this? Why didn't it work? And you can just kind of work through it and you just keep showing up and you just keep trying and just learn. But there's no practice area for that other than do it. And then once you do it, and I used to train a lot of people to be on the air. I did get into management for a while and backed off on that.
I had a bunch of my things written down, but we just skimmed over that. Your story was more interesting. So
stories. But it's hard to learn, practice, create, jump over a barrier to become yourself again so that you can do what you wanted to do in the first place. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. I'm just going to say yes.
There are a lot of people that, in my case, they want to go on the air and they're very stiff because they haven't learned how to screw up enough to get themselves out of it. I mean, one of the most horrifying things is to make a mistake. So you're really scared and you're really tense and you're talking like this and you're saying all the call letters, but you're not connecting with anyone because it just sounds terrible and awful. And okay, I'm going to go home now. I hope we all had a good time. So when you learn to forget, you press a button wrong, you do something wrong, you mess up enough, you cry, you scream, you go home and say you're going to quit. You weren't meant to do this. You go back the next day and you have a little bit of a better day, and then you have a little bit of a better day. And you go, well, I'm not going to do that again. And so you mess up enough to be able to get over that fear and then come back to go, oh, yeah, I get to be the me I wanted to be the whole time.
Yep. And then maybe that same situation pops up again, but you already have experience. You're like, okay, I got it.
I won't die from it.
It ain't no biggie.
I'll be fine. I won't die from it. And I'd had some doozies. Doozies.
I don't know if I can recall any. I don't think I ever got the chance to listen to any, but I don't recall any.
It wasn't me at the time. It happened to a good friend. And I don't know if he'd tell the story or not. He's no longer working in radio, but I was running the board when I first got started, and Ted Nugent was playing with Damn Yankees and the crew in Hershey. This happened to be this individual's very first interview ever, and the one thing you don't ever want to do is tell Ted Nugent you're new at something. That's a lesson. So I opened the mic. Hey, we're going to check in Hershey to find out how Randy Rock Johnson is doing that's who it was at the time. It was Randy Rock Johnson. God love you, Randy, if you're actually watching this podcast. It was one of the most heart-stopping moments of a career because everything was live then. There was no delay.
Yeah.
So I said, we're going to check in with Randy. He's at the stadium right now. And what we had to do was wait. We had to wait we were going to do a four-play, play 4 songs in a row. We were going to do 4 songs from Ted Nugent and Damn Yankees. Introduce them because they were in town that night. And I said, okay, Randy, this is how it's going to go down. I'm here, going to do the weather, then we're going to bring you on. So he turns to Ted Nugent and says, okay, we're gonna wait till after the weather and then we're gonna come on. Ted didn't like that because Randy told him he was new. I've never done an interview before, and Ted wanted to eat him alive like the animals he hunts. So I open the mic. I go, oh, we're checking with Randy. He's at Hershey. How's it going, Randy? All I hear is Ted Nugent yell at the top of his lungs, I'm Ted Blanken Nugent, and I have to wait for the blanken weather. Boom, I hit the button. I slammed it down. The program director, Jeff Kaufman, comes in at the time. What the hell was that? I don't know. I'm crying. Randy's crying. Everybody's upset.
Crying.
The F-bomb went all over the air. And I thought he was going down. He had to collect himself. And so my boss gets on the phone. He starts yelling at the record company and telling Ted to stop it. We're not putting him on the air ever again. If he swears again. I mean, this was a big deal.
Yeah.
And a little bit different now because of the delays and everything else. But Randy had to gather himself, and I'm shaking. I'm on the board. I'm like, we're never going to make it. This is the most horrible thing that ever happened. And because he thought it was at the time.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, let's check back in with Randy. And there's Randy. Hi. And he pulled off the interview. To his credit, he did it. But it was one of those moments that you can't get back.
Yeah.
And you're all out. And it was horrible. And we made it.
You just got to let the cards fall how they fall at that point.
Interviewing Ozzy Osbourne was the opposite worst. Because how do you ask you could never be over-prepared when it comes to interviews and things.
Absolutely.
I talk a lot, so it's easy. But
hey, you're talking to another person that talks a lot.
So I had to interview Ozzy. I was pitch hitting, doing middays for Kim Rodke at the time. And Jeff comes in and says to me, we've got an Ozzy interview in an hour. We're going to be able to get him. I'm like, okay. First of all, what do you ask a guy that everybody knows? Like,
Valid point.
he was Ozzy.
Did you really bite the head off the bat?
Yeah, even 15 years ago, you're not asking those Bush questions
Exactly.
like all the. So, oh my God, what do I ask somebody that everybody knows? And okay, so I came up with a bunch of questions, and I don't even remember how it went. There's a lot of that. I don't remember what happened. I completely blacked out. They got him on the phone. He was in Miami, which I knew, but I thought I'll throw a warm-up softball. This is live, okay?
Okay.
Normally when you're doing it, you warm up, you talk, you hang out, you get them all easy, and then, you come into an interview. This was cold. So I'm like, hi, Ozzy, how's it going? Where are you? I don't know. He had no idea where he was. I'm like,
God.
oh, hell, this interview's going to be horrible. It probably was. But at that point, it was still magic to hear him, so nobody really cared.
You're like, oh my God, it's Ozzy Osbourne.
It might have gone on for an hour. Really, it was probably 2 minutes, but it seemed like an hour.
Yep.
And he had to ask somebody where he was. And he was in Miami. And I said, okay, great. How's the tour? It's good. It went like this the whole time. So there's like just polar opposites. You never know what you're going to get. But once you suffer the most complicated, which was something like that, and the wicked worst of the F-bombs flying,
Yep.
what else can you do to me?
That makes sense.
As long as it's not me saying it, I'm getting fired, it's your problem.
Yep, you're the one getting fired.
Yeah,
not
but,
me.
and then you learn to turn it into entertainment. You learn to have fun. A lot
Absolutely.
of times we get interviews on the show.
Sound clips that you can use time
People's
and time
morning
again.
show, we have people come in and they're leery of radio people because a lot of them are goofy, and fair enough. Hey, how's it going? Evanescence. God, Amy Lee, the people, I don't know how to explain this, but there were interviews before us.
Mm-hmm.
So they kind of sit them down and they go, okay, you're going to have an interview with this person, you're going to interview that person, or this group. So the interview before us, we were listening in to this radio guy, and he was like, and I think you're really pretty too. I'm like, oh God, we're all sitting there going, no wonder people hate radio people. They do that. Don't say that to her. She's a working professional with a beautiful voice.
It's like the
You're
homeschooled
hot.
people of music.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like no offense to anyone that's homeschooled, by the way, but it
Can be a good thing.
Hunter, I love you. I'm sorry, buddy.
So we know why we're not liked.
Absolutely.
Because of DBs, for any other way of putting it, saying
Yeah.
dumb things. So once people realize that we're serious and we respect them, it's a whole lot different. They're like, oh, you're cool. Oh, you're fun. And we have a whole different experience. That's skill mastery. That's not just something you fall into right away.
Sure. It's something you definitely got to learn.
But yeah, there's a lot of those stories, but it's almost weekly, really.
Well, Jen, I honestly feel like I could sit here and talk to you all night, and I feel like I would just love every single story you have. Unfortunately, I do not have all night, but I do want to say...
I'm getting way too comfortable. I'm starting to get like fun on the sofa, and I feel like I'm like letting out all of my inner demons. You've been a great therapist. I appreciate it.
Hey, anytime. So it'll be the same rate, same time next week. But I do want to thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Don't worry about it. And coming and sitting down and talking to us and tell us your story. And I would love to have you back again in the future.
Anytime. Looking forward to working with the crew too. As far as being on the advisory board, it's important to me. This has been my life.
I mean,
I take it that seriously.
Yeah, if anyone gets a chance to read her biography or the about everything, yeah, it's very apparent how important the music scene is.
Stories.
I do like the stories, but Jen, until next time, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're here with Dezzie Renae. Dezzie, she is a country music artist from Central Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So a lot of things going on right now in your world. You just dropped a new album, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 Sundays ago.
Alrighty, moving on, right?
Yep,
All right. Is this your first studio album?
it is. All the other stuff I've ever produced has been off my iPhone.
Okay.
So this is first studio experience in general.
Wow. Okay. Now we're talking a little bit off air before this. You said that you've been around music and doing music to some sort of effect your whole life, but about 2 years ago is whenever you first started doing this, right?
Yeah, during COVID actually is when I got my start playing shows. Funny enough, COVID shut down, and I was working at a restaurant where a bunch of my friends, we were just sitting there, no business obviously, and playing a guitar, and they were like, "Why don't you do this?" And so I was like, I'm a mom. And so I continued to play, and they were like, "We're going to book you a show here." And my kids heard me and they were like, "Mom, why don't you do this?" And I was like, if your kid tells you you should be doing something like that for them to look up to you doing, you can't say no.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's how I kind of started playing shows and getting myself out there.
That's awesome. So you started out playing shows at the restaurant where you worked. And then you said you started kind of recording and producing your own music just off your phone?
Yeah, my iPhone and my headphones. Not even the wireless ones, like the ones that have the cord. That's how I started producing my music.
So just very bare bones.
Yeah.
That's awesome, though. The whole way through and through.
Yeah, it gave me a lot of learning experience, first of all, because like I got to learn a little about the drums, the bass, the guitar, more about the guitar, and like putting harmonies together, stuff like that. So it was a really cool experience just learning all that on my own.
Yeah. And then I'm sure going into like a professional recording studio and fully producing a full album, that had to have been something pretty crazy too, right?
That was a whole different world than my iPhone.
Yeah.
For sure.
And there's a little bit of a story behind that, right?
Yeah, so I was actually like performing at a Halloween party in Westminster a couple years ago, and I met a really cool group of musicians who have a studio, and they kind of took me under their wing and helped introduce me to some other good musicians, and that's how I met the guy who produced my album. He did most of the engineering and mixing. He was like, Des, you got a lot of talent. Let's do something with your music. And so that was last year. And over the course of the past year, we've been recording, but I've taken songs out and written new ones and been like, we have to add this in, or we have to take this out. And all of us have gone through a lot of hardships and, ups and downs, as everyone does. And so things have been put off. So over the summer, we set the date. We were like, we're going to do it by this day. And we got it done. We pushed really hard to get it done, but it happened.
That's awesome. I mean, good things take time. And I listened to the album. It's phenomenal. I hope every single one of our viewers listen to it. It's really good. So you said earlier as well that the song on there, Moving On, that was one of the first songs you wrote, right? Or
one of the first songs I wrote and like put out there and like took seriously. I wrote a couple of songs when I was a teenager, but those were just amateur things that I don't even sing those or play those songs.
Yeah.
But Moving On was the first song that I learned how to produce a song. I recorded all the parts for it on my iPhone. And it was also just a part of my life when I was like, okay, I'm moving on from all these things that have held me back. I know it's a breakup song, but it has a lot of little subliminal things in my world that I'm moving on from all these things that have kept me from trying to be what I want to be. And so that whole phase of my life, when I think of the song Moving On, it represents that whole time period for me.
That's awesome. It sounds like it's very important to you.
Yeah.
That's great. So, man, you have a couple other songs you're working on right now as well?
Yeah. I'm working on 3 other songs that will hopefully be some single releases over the next, few months or so. And I have much more other stuff coming too, but it's in the works, so I don't want to talk too much about it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, only tell us what you're wanting to tell us. That's great. So, I mean, it's been, I guess, almost 3 years now that you've been working on music since COVID. And what are some of the things you've learned over this time, this experience you've had, growing into a musician and you growing your career as this?
So I used to think that like I wasn't meant to do this kind of thing because, I mean, I auditioned in chorus and plays and stuff through my whole life, and I never got the leads. I was never told like, wow, you're special, you stand out. So I always stayed in the shadows. And I think that over the course of the past few years, what I've learned is that it doesn't matter what other people say. If it makes you feel good and it's something that you want, then push for it. And the people that enjoy it are going to be the ones that support you and keep you going through all the ups and downs of that journey. And, I've been shown that there are people who are in it for the long run and people who are meant to be there for a short time and then they fall off and go their separate ways. So it's a journey that people teach you things every single day. New things, every experience, every show, every place that I go, I'm learning new things. And that's something that's really exciting to me, is just having new people tell you new things about different aspects of the business because there's so many different things to learn. And yeah, I think that just putting your heart and soul into it is one thing I've really learned over the past few years is when you put your heart and soul and write music from a place of like real feelings and emotions, then other people connect with that a lot better. So going to keep doing that.
That's awesome. That's great. That was a phenomenal answer for something like the question. Oh, wow. So where do you perform a lot of your shows at? If somebody wanted to come see you live, mostly around, you said like South Central PA a little bit?
Yeah, I'm from Gettysburg, so once a month I'm at Gettysburg Eddie's every third Thursday. That's right in Gettysburg. And I'm there every single month on the third Thursday. But then I also play a lot of places like Thomasville, New Era, Racehorse Tavern.
Okay.
You know, I make my way around the Seven Valleys, the Valley Tavern. I've played there, and I have a show coming up there soon. So I make my way around a little bit.
That's great. That's awesome. Wow. So now, speaking of the Hall of Fame, you were nominated for an award last year, weren't you?
Best female country artist or best female country vocalist, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was exciting.
yeah. I'm hoping, or I guess you're probably hoping for a best country artist this year or something like that.
I'm hoping maybe one of my songs might be put in there for something.
Yeah.
You know, I have a lot of emotional songs on that album, and I'm hoping that it'll touch enough people that they think it's worthy of something. But if not, you know, even if I get to go to the ceremony again, like I cried when I found out I was nominated.
Oh,
like
really?
that was I cried for like 10 minutes. It was the coolest thing to me because
That's awesome.
just to even be recognized as a nominee, I've never been recognized before. So it was just a cool feeling.
It meant a lot to you, I'm sure.
It did. Yeah.
That's awesome. The award ceremony are awesome. Is this your first year going this past year?
Yeah.
Gotcha. I guess, what was this, our second year, I think. And I mean, yeah, it's just a crazy experience. There's so many people and everybody there is so supportive of each other. I mean, it was cool to see the amount of people that were just congratulating each other. People that were even competing against each other for the same award, just like jumping up and down and screaming and hugging each other like, oh my gosh, congratulations, you won. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah. I thought the best part about it was that like I've never been to anything like that. So going into it, I was a little skeptical of like some of the people that are in my category or even not might be like standoffish. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
So going into it, just the amount of support, everyone's like, you know, it's so nice to meet you. And I've never met these people, but they knew who I was. And there were some people who I knew and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here. It's so cool. And it was really cool that everyone just felt like friends, and it wasn't like a competition in any sense of the word. It was more so just let's all celebrate the fact that we're all musicians and we all have accomplishments and things that we've done, whether we win an award or not, you know?
Yeah.
Let's just come together and celebrate it. And that's what it felt like.
Exactly. Well, that's the whole point of the Hall of Fame, the award ceremony, is to recognize each other and help support each other, because Pennsylvania, we've said this phrase on here a million times, but it's Central Pennsylvania especially has something special in here where the artists, we just produce a lot of good music and a lot of great people. I don't know what it is. Maybe you have an idea. I don't know, but
You got me. It's really cool to just meet. I mean, even meeting you guys and whatnot. You guys are really nice people.
Thank you. I mean, we try. I mean, this is all just to help give back to the community and help support our local music community. We're more than happy to do it. So I guess, do you have anything coming up that you want to, maybe make anybody aware of, show wise, I guess?
I'm booking for 2024.
Okay.
It's filling up fast, but that would be the only thing. I have some shows coming up. I just posted my schedule on all my social media. So if anyone wants to find me at a show within the next week or 2-3 weeks, I have a schedule up on my Facebook and Instagram.
Great. And where can they find that?
DezzieRenaeMusic.com.
All right.
Everything's right there.
Great. And I'm sure we'll probably have it in the links as well, in the comments and the description, and everything. Great. Well, I guess real quick before we go, I did want to ask, if you could give any advice to a starting or aspiring musician, what would it be?
Just because someone doesn't like what you're doing doesn't mean that you should stop doing it, and you should do what you love to do for the people who do enjoy it. Because that's my biggest thing that I've learned throughout music is don't let the people who don't like it get you down. There's people who are going to love your music. So if someone doesn't, don't be discouraged. Just keep pushing and doing what you love and put your heart into it and don't stop.
That's awesome. You sound really driven and passionate about this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been.
That's good. I guess kind of actually leads me to one more question. What do you think would be, what's a goal for you for, the next coming years? I mean, you've been at it for 2-3 years now. What would you like to achieve in the next 2 to 3 years?
I want to go on a tour next year.
Okay.
I'm kind of putting my own little tour together. So that would be exciting to go down the East Coast and play a bunch of bars and restaurants and venues. And I want to go to Nashville and record a Nashville album.
That would be awesome.
Which I'm ready for. I just, I got kids, so it's going to take time, but I'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've come, this far in 2 to 3 years. I mean, you've released a full album. You've been nominated for awards. I mean, 2 to 3 years sounds like a long time, but it's really not. And if you can achieve that in that short amount of time, I think you can do a lot more in the future.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.
My name's Dezzie Renae, and this song is called Sunshine. Let me tell you all a story about a girl who lost her way. She never seemed to give up hope on finding brighter days. When the storm would roar and the rain would pour, the sun would go away. She grabbed that old guitar and she'd sing the blues away. Ooh. With a wounded heart and tattered dream, she'd been torn apart inside. She kept her faith and stood up tall and never gave a try. But it felt like that sunshine wouldn't come back out again. She grabbed that old guitar and this is what she said. Oh sunshine, won't you please come out to stay? Your warmth can heal my broken heart and brighten up my darkest days. Sunshine, oh sunshine, won't you shine your light on me? The storm won't last forever, so I'll sing till you come back to me. Oh, ooh, oh, sunshine. Oh, people laughed and told her that she'd never be a star. She wanted nothing more than to play that old guitar. And so she'd sit alone under the moon and strum away her blues, and waited for that day when the dreams would all come true. She sang, sunshine, oh sunshine, won't you please come out to stay? Your warmth can heal my broken heart and brighten up my darkest days. Sunshine, oh sunshine, won't you shine your light on me? The storm won't last forever, so I'll sing till you come back to me. Oh, 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 this little light of mine, when you gonna come shine? Oh, this little light of mine. Hey, oh sunshine, sunshine, oh sunshine, won't you please come out to stay? Your warmth can heal my broken heart and brighten up my darkest days. Sunshine, oh sunshine, won't you shine your light on me? The storm won't last forever, so I'll sing till you come back to me. Oh,
Well, everybody, we'd like to thank you so much for tuning in. And of course, thank you to Jen and thank you to Dezzie for coming on the show tonight. We thoroughly enjoyed our time. And everybody, please stay tuned for more episodes coming your way.